Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 458 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great, my man. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. We're going to dive straight into the review part of the show. I'm hoping that we can whiz through this part quite swiftly. We're going to start here last Friday, July the 19th at the Fantasy Springs Casino in Indio, California, USA. Over here, live on DAZN, a Golden Boy show, we saw Alexis Rocha move to 25-2, a unanimous decision for him over 10 rounds for the WBO NABO welterweight title, which was vacant. So a win there for Alexis Rocha. He took the O from Santiago Dominguez, now 27-1. Like I say, unanimous over 10 for Rocha. Good win for him. Moving now to Tokyo, Japan. Over here, this one was on ESPN and also on Sky Sports. We saw Junto Nakatani in the elevated main event. I think it was initially supposed to be Kazuto Ioka, and his fight got cancelled because his opponent came in way overweight, so that one fell through at the last stages, and Junto Nakatani elevated to the main event, and first round body shot KO for him against Vincent Astrolabio, now 19-5, usually quite durable. I think he'd only been stopped once in his 4 previous losses, but Junto Nakatani went in there and, like I say, destroyed him actually. 28-0 now, Nakatani. Love watching him fight. As I've said so many times, I'm a big fan of his. He's a WBC bantamweight world champion. Another defense for him. It was very short. I mean, there's not too much really to discuss on the fight. Obviously, I would have expected it to go a few rounds just because Astrolabio's a tough guy. He's experienced. He's been in the away corner more than once in the past. He's upset the odds in the past. And I just thought we're going to see a few rounds here, but I was extremely wrong when he got him out in just a round. So a great performance from Nakatani. Moving now to the Resorts World Arena in Birmingham, West Midlands, United Kingdom. This one was live on TNT. Let's start down the undercard. We're going to talk about this one here. Shabazz Masood moved to 13-0. A points win for him over 8 against Marvin Solano, now 24-18. Solano down in the first round, but managed to survive the 8 rounds. Good win for Shabazz Masood. Nice to I guess get a little tune-up fight in there. I still don't know why Liam Davies pulled out of their fight. He was obviously at the fight on the weekend, and we do want to see that one next for both men. Zach Parker moved to 25-1, a TKO for him in the 4th against Jack Armfield, now 26-4. Armfield down twice prior to the stoppage, like I say, 4th round TKO. It was a one-sided fight. I needed Zach Parker in my mind to get the KO just to kind of get things, rolling again quite quickly, because that performance last time out against Tyrone Zoiga wasn't a good performance. I've mentioned that. It wasn't the most convincing of performances that night there, and, he was back in the same arena again. Obviously, he was put down in that Zoiga fight in the first round. And getting in with Jack Armfield, I think we highlighted on last week's show, he'd only had 1 fight in the last 6 years, so he hadn't really been very active. However, he'd only, had 3 losses on his slate, and he'd never been stopped, and he'd been in with some good fighters. Obviously holds a fantastic win that really aged well over John Ryder, albeit a toss-up of a fight. Could have gone either way. So yeah, I think Zach Parker did what he had to do, went in there, got the job done nice and early, but it was also too quick of a fight to read too much into at the same time. So it's like it's a lose-lose, I think, for Zach Parker, because he needed to knock him out early because he didn't want to be going the distance with Jack Armfield. However, if he knocked him out early and didn't face any adversity in the fight, then he also kind of wouldn't be answering that question either. And that was what it was. He went in there, got the job done early, didn't really have to worry about anything coming back at him. There weren't really any hairy moments for him, and he gets through it unscathed, but I don't think we learn too much from that. It's good for Zach, though, to get back to winning ways, I must stress. Also on the card, Solomon Dakers obviously was set to be taking on David Adelaide. In the end, he rematched an old foe in Mykal Webster, and this time Dakers was able to get the stoppage, which is a rare thing for Solomon Dakers. I've been a big critic of his ever since he turned over. He's now 9-0. He's picked up a TKO in the 7th there against Mykal Webster. I think he's closed the book on that chapter there. Webster now 10-2. The first fight was a close fight. Dakers managed to win on points. This one, though, that TKO for Dakers. Webster down in the 5th, and then once prior to the stoppage in the 7th. Like I say, I've slated Dakers so many times for being quite boring and stuff like that. I really felt that when Queensberry signed him from Matchroom, I think Matchroom kind of dumped him off and then Queensberry picked him up. I felt that, he'd really done Eddie Hearn a favour, Frank Warren, signing Dakers and keeping him away, because Dakers isn't very good to watch. However, credit where credit's due. I think that was the right way to deal with a close first fight, to go in there and leave no nagging questions. Really went in there, did the business, looked good, and I'm going to give him some credit for like the first time ever. So yeah, Solomon Dakers, if you're listening, congrats to you, pat on the back, good performance, and I want to see more of that. That is what it's all about, a good win there for the English heavyweight title. Moving up the card once again, and I tell you what, this one here has to be mentioned for me in the shortlist of fight of the year so far. Owen Cooper, now at 10-1. He lost his O. He was TKO'd in the 10th and final round by Echo Esserman, now 20-1. Mad fight for the WBO European welterweight title. Owen Cooper down in the 6th, and Echo Esserman down in the 9th, and then obviously Echo Esserman comes out in the 10th round. Literally, the round after being knocked down and looking, in a lot of trouble, comes out and stops Owen Cooper. It was just a crazy, crazy fight. Like I say, there were so many ebbs and flows, a lot of back and forths, lots of momentum swings. It was just a really, really good fight. I did think that Owen Cooper had quite a sharp start to the fight. But as we know, Echo Esserman is known as the engine. Very good, very good reputation for his work rate and all the rest of it, and yeah, went in there and got the business done. And I have to say, I felt he was winning the fight, but it turns out, according to the scorecards, he needed that stoppage in the 10th and final round. I actually backed Echo Esserman to win on points, and I felt that he was close to winning on points. However, like I say, the judges, they would have never given it to him on points. So good for him to get that TKO, though it looked very, very unlikely. And yeah, credit to Echo Esserman. Like I say, I think he has bounced back after losing to Harry Scarf. I think this was the perfect kind of fight for him. He's got in there with Owen Cooper, took his O, took his belt, probably took his ranking. And, it's a good confidence booster, I think. And I wouldn't mind seeing it again. But yeah, Owen Cooper went in very confident, obviously, last time after his win at the same venue. And yeah, it was a really, really good fight. Can't talk about it enough. It was a fantastic fight for both men. Also on the card, we saw Ezra Taylor move to 9-0, a unanimous decision for him over Carlos Lamela, now 8-4. Lamela could take a good shot, I tell you that much. It was for the vacant WBC International Light Heavyweight title. Like I say, unanimous decision over 10 for Ezra Taylor. Chantel Cameron on the card as well. She's now 19-1, friend of the show. Fantastic to see her back in the ring, period, but also back to winning ways, and obviously having her first fight under Frank Warren. But yeah, majority decision over 10-2s against Ellen Mykal, now 17-3, never been stopped still, and those 3 losses are in very, very good company. I think it's Delphine Persoon, Alicia Baumgardner, and now Chantel Cameron. It was for the vacant WBC interim super lightweight world title. Like I say, very, very happy for Chantel Cameron. You know, she's a friend of the show. I think she looked quite good. I think at times she boxed and at times she kind of fought with Mykal. But no, yeah, good showing, good performance. And one thing that I felt was quite cool, that, you know, when they showed the punch stats, she threw 880 punches in those 10 2-minute rounds. So that's 44 punches per minute thrown. That's quite impressive, I think, because I don't think the ladies are really sort of known for volume punching and stuff like that, you know. So, yeah, that's a hell of a statistic there, actually, I think, Eddie. But, yeah, great stuff for Chantel Cameron. And, you know, she picks up an interim title there. So hopefully, fingers and toes crossed, we do at some point see her in with Katie Taylor again. I wouldn't mind seeing her in with the winner of, obviously, Taylor Serrano too, though it does seem a little bit unlikely at the moment with her signing with Frank Warren. But then again, these days Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren seem to be able to sit down and make fights happen, especially if Mr. Turkey's involved. Moving up the card once again, we saw Ashley Lane move to 18-11 with 2 draws. A failed attempt of defending his British and Commonwealth bantamweight titles against Andrew Kane, now 12-1. Another stoppage win for him, this time in the 5th round. Ashley Lane down twice in the 5th, and yeah, his corner told the referee to stop the fight. Game performance from Ashley Lane. Like I say, came out in the 1st round, really tried to put it on Andrew Kane, just came straight to him, and it was interesting to see those kind of tactics. I guess he might have watched that Baluta fight, you know, because Baluta kind of brought the fight to Andrew Kane. And yeah, he tried to do the same. I know he does like to fight with pressure sometimes anyway, but yeah, it was interesting tactics because he did meet Andrew Kane head on, and, you know, at times he was doing all right. You know, his work was decent in there, but you could just see Andrew Kane's punching power, man. It's such a dangerous asset. He really does possess some serious power, and even though Ashley Lane was doing his best to kind of stay in range, you know, make things tough for him, try and make him work, put the pressure on him, push him back. When Andrew Kane was connecting nicely to particularly the body, you could see that those shots were bothering Ashley Lane, despite having a really good poker face. They were getting to him, and they were slowly but surely breaking him down. So, like I say, good win there for Andrew Kane, and it's fantastic for him to now have the British and Commonwealth. And obviously the main event, we saw it, the rematch between Nathan Heaney, now 19-1 with a draw. He was TKO'd in the 12th and final round by Brad Pauls, now 19-1 with a draw. Heaney down in the 4th round, and once prior to the stoppage. Another really, really good fight. I think that one and the Echo Esserman fight were, you know, Cooper Esserman and Nathan Heaney. Those were the two best fights on the card, and both of those fights ended with a final round KO. So yeah, really good fight, like I say, with Heaney and Brad Pauls. I felt that you know, Heaney racked up probably the first 3 rounds. He was looking quite good, but then when he was down himself in the 4th round, it was a punch late on in that 4th round. I think from that moment there, Heaney started to get a bit of self-doubt, and I think Brad Pauls started to grow in confidence at the very same time. And from that moment there definitely was a switch flicked, and, you know, Brad Pauls was really full of confidence, like I say, and fighting very effectively, just doing enough at times. I didn't think he was being too aggressive, but just doing enough, you know, like getting the better of the exchanges, not kind of overexerting himself. Fighting very, very smart, but clearly winning rounds, and Nathan Heaney was chasing him a little bit. Then obviously, you know, Heaney had his moments late on. Obviously, we know that gas tank's really good, and I think maybe Brad Pauls may have either been tiring or just had a little bit of a rest, because I think it was clear to see that he'd racked up a few rounds, but then obviously a brutal finish, you know, late on in that 12th and final round from Brad Pauls. He did pull it out the bag. I said it on last week's show again. I felt that Brad Pauls hurt Heaney a number of times in the first fight, and even though he's not known as a big puncher, you know, I just thought you cannot write him off for getting a stoppage, and I felt it were going to be unlikely, but still, you can't write him off. And yeah, you know, to his credit, he pulled it out of the bag, and like I say, fantastic for him, because I didn't think he'd get the rematch with Nathan Heaney, and he did get the rematch very, very soon after the first fight, and Frank Warren didn't really need to do him that favour. So yeah, credit to Frank Warren, credit to Brad Pauls for coming back and winning this rematch, and obviously bringing a belt back to Cornwall, which is a massive, massive thing for that area. And credit as well has to go to Nathan Heaney for actually stepping in with Brad Pauls again. I felt it was going to be a very, very dangerous fight. I said it again so many times, it's going to be a very hard fight for Heaney, and he didn't need to take it, but he went in there and did it. So he's a true fighting man for sure, and he loses his O, but loses it in fashion. And I tell you what, I wouldn't mind seeing a third fight down the line, maybe not next, but yeah, Nathan Heaney, yeah, he's been a good fighter thus far, and I don't think that's the end of him. But no, fantastic for Brad Pauls to pick up the British, and it's such a exciting domestic scene there at middleweight at the moment. Moving now to the Maryland Live Casino in Maryland, USA. Over here, we will be speaking to him in a few moments' time. Mykal Fox, now 23-4, a ring return for him. Since his last fight back in 2022, he returned with a unanimous decision over 8 rounds against Donald Ward. That one for the UBO Intercontinental Welterweight title. Like I say, we'll be speaking to Mike very, very soon. And then finally, the final card to mention of this review part of the show. I don't think you saw anything from last week, Eddie, so jump in if I'm wrong there. But moving on to this one, it went down on DAZN. I saw a few of the fights, I think maybe 2 of the fights on the card. Didn't see the final 2 though, so I'm going to start down the card. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. now 54-6 with a draw. A unanimous decision for him over 6 rounds against the 1-0 fighter Uriah Hall, who I think was some kind of MMA guy at some point. Really close fight over 6 rounds, man. It ended up taking place at cruiserweight. I felt that Uriah Hall was hard done by, to be honest with you. I really was quite surprised when they gave the decision to Julio Cesar Chavez. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in with Jake Paul at some point. It just makes sense, and it's just crazy, but it just does make sense, I think. I think they're going to probably try and make that fight, and I don't really want to see it at all. But, yeah, he barely scraped that one, Chavez. I just think he needs to hang the gloves up at this point. Also on the card, friend of the show, Shadeja Green, now 14-1, a unanimous decision for her against Natasha Spence, now 8-5 with 2 draws. That one over 8-2s there. Shadeja Green actually knocked down in that fight, though she didn't agree with it. She said it was more of like a slip, I think. So, yeah, you know, it didn't affect the scorecards in the end. She still won unanimously. But, yeah, I thought she might be able to stop Natasha Spence. I thought I was going to say her name wrong then, but yeah, Natasha Spence. I felt that Shadeja might be able to stop her, but to Natasha's credit, she was a tough lady. Also on the card, I missed this one, but Amanda Serrano moved to 47-2 with a draw. She'd gone, I think it was 7, 8, 9 fights, all winning on decision, or losing on decision. I think there's a Katie Taylor loss in that previous 9 fights. And yeah, she stepped in with Stevie Morgan, managed to get a TKO in the second round. I did see the stoppage. Stevie Morgan was a big puncher herself, according to her record, but she's now 14-2. So yeah, happy for Amanda Serrano to, get a stoppage. It's been a long time. She is a big puncher, though it looked like she was starving for a KO. She's got one here nice and early, and then she can just concentrate on that fight with Katie Taylor down the line. Which isn't too far away now, really. So yeah, that's good for her. It was pretty much the perfect outcome, and she will obviously look ahead to that. And yeah, what a way to win your 50th fight. It was a big card, obviously. All the best to her. What else did we have? We had Jake Paul in the main event, now 10-1 as a pro. Wow, he's racking up them wins. He was able to TKO Mike Perry, who's now 0-2. Didn't see it at all, haven't even seen the stoppage, but it was a 6th round TKO for Jake Paul. And that brings the review part of the show to a close. It's now time to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my favourite welterweight contender in the world. It is, of course, the main man, Mr. Mykal Fox. Mike, welcome back on the show.
What's up, Joey? Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure, like always. So, Mike, we last spoke back in September 2022. It's been a little while. It was just before the Mean Machine fight. Why have you been inactive for so long? That's my first question.
It hasn't been for lack of trying. The biggest thing is just, despite, the losses and everything, I think my name still holds a little bit of weight. So, I mean, maybe it's a little bit of an intimidation factor and whatnot. But, like I said, for not lack of trying, we tried to take fights at 40. We tried to get fights at 47 and 154 just to get back moving and everything. It didn't come, we couldn't get fights over the finish line. We couldn't get contracts signed until just this past weekend. With thanks to Tony Jeter, promoter from out of Maryland, Jeter Promotions, he was able to get me on the card. I was the co-main event under Emmanuel Alim, and we got to announce our return.
Absolutely. And yeah, like you say, you made your long-awaited ring return over the weekend in Maryland. A shutout on 2 of the 3 scorecards. You lost 1 round on the other card against Donald Ward. Talk me through the fight, Mike, and how did it feel to be back in there finally?
Man, it felt great. It felt great. The whole week of the fight, after I signed the contract, a few weeks before that, and then going into the fight, we getting myself prepared, being at the weigh-in, just, it was an energy that I hadn't felt in a long time. And just knowing that, man, we back at it, man. We're about to be back to work. I get on the scale, we weigh in. I came in 146 and a half. So it was just a great feeling the whole time. The tense in the room and everything in the locker room, how intense it was in the room and things like that. All things I missed. We go into the fight. I hadn't been just sitting around. I did a couple fights in the Teen Combat League, so it wasn't just 2 years of complete and total inactivity. And, we're going to camps with, guys like Brian Mendoza back in 2023 and Tim Zhu in 2024. I think it all kept me sharp, and it kept me motivated, and it kept me competitive. And, just going into the fight, I wanted to show that, I'm at it. I can still perform at a level I didn't want to look like I missed a beat.
And, you spoke there that you recently signed with Tony Jeter. How did that come about? And it must be good kind of setting that example for you, signing a contract, and within a few weeks you're in the ring already having your first fight.
Yeah. So, I mean, it came about, Tony had bumped into my dad at the Golden Gloves tournament, the local tournament, and he just said, I think I can get Mike Fox back moving. So we sat down, we all had a meeting on a phone conference or whatever, and he just said, like, he was basically saying the same thing that I was saying. We get you back active. He's got, like, he tries to feel like, or not try, he does. He throws like 3 shows a year, and he would want to have me on all of them. I'm saying if you can get me moving, you can give me opponents and everything. Nothing that's like with a busted record or a lopsided record. No records with more losses than wins. We want winning opponents. We'll sign with you. Nothing else is really coming about. Not for, like I said, not for lack of trying, but Tony was the one that Tony Jeter at Jeter Promotions was the one that made it happen.
And what is the plan moving forward? I mean, you've kind of just answered that question really already, saying that you want to get back active, obviously. It's clear that you will fight anyone. I think we've seen that in the past with you. Do you feel like you maybe need one more fight like a Donald Ward before stepping back up with the more dangerous fighters, Mike?
Jeter's next card is in November, and the next fight I would want it to be, a step up from a Donald Ward. Shout out to Donald Ward. I'm truly grateful for him to, step to the occasion and help me break a 2-year drought. But we want maybe a level higher than Donald Ward. We want to take this fight in November, and then the rest. So the end of the year, we're just shaking. If there's any looming ring rust, we're gonna shake that off, but with a little bit of with a little more competition each time. Like each time I get in the ring, we can slow walk it back into that level. But honestly, at the top of the year, I would love to be fighting. I would love to work on getting ranked and fighting and trying to get in with people who got names. I did an interview. I told Alexis Rocha fought the night before me. He got a good win. I would love to fight him. We go to Golden Boy. I come in the B side. I'm not worried about that. Alexis Rocha is a great fighter, very respectable record, very respectable name. I'd love to mix it up with him.
I really like that fight, actually. I've never thought about that fight before, but I really like that one. Because I was going to ask if there's kind of anyone on your radar right now. But I really like that fight, actually. Obviously, we can't have you inactive again. I know, again, as you say, it's no fault of your own. I'm sure you've tried to make fights happen in this time for sure. So does that mean though that we will next see you out in November? It won't be sooner than November.
No, I don't think it'll be sooner than November. Like I said, we like if something comes up, I'm always down. But I know that, like I said, Tony has November 9th already kind of on the calendar. That's what I'm setting my eye on right now. If something comes up before that, I mean, we'll wait an opportunity, see what it can do for us. I would take it, but right now, November 9th, and that's this is the first time in 2 years I've had multiple dates on the calendar like this. I signed, when I originally signed with Marshall Kaufman back in, what was that, 2015. I remember after my first fight with him, he says, "Can you do February?" I'm like, absolutely. I say, I like the activity. I'm better when I'm active. I can do good things on a short period of time. I've shown that before, but I like having the time to prepare, and I like having something to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. And your brother Alexis Fox, it's been 6 months since he last boxed. He became the first man to take Darius Foljam the distance. That was kind of good, but of course we want him back to actually winning fights. How's he doing, and when will we hear some news on him?
He's doing well. He actually just got back from Texas. So the night I fought, he had just flown in, so he went from the airport straight to my fight, because he said he was not missing Mykal Fox's comeback, but he was down in Texas and Houston. He was helping, he was sparring David Morrell, helping him get ready for Hot Rod. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but Hot Rod, light heavyweight fighter, helping him get ready for that fight. So I was talking to him as he was sparring. he would call up and everything and just be like, man, I'm feeling good. He said, man, honestly, I can't wait to get back. And then he said he talked to our advisor, Mike Burrell. He said, man, we might can try to get you something at the end, towards the end of the year. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I mean, he's in a good space. I think in his previous fights, he kind of took the fights. He didn't take them lightly, but he went into the fights not even like halfway injured, back or hip, something like that or his knee, something like that would keep him from actually not even just performing, but it would hinder his preparation, and I had told him after the Fulton fight, I'm like, look, man, don't step into nothing crazy right now. Take this time while you got it to let your body heal. We both started taking recovery more seriously, getting into yoga and things like that. I said, man, let your body heal and take a proper run at this, because the way you're going about it, we know you're a dog, we know you got heart, but let's be smart about this. Let's take a more thought out approach. Let's get your body back in order, because I know you can still perform. Like, honestly, I don't think Darius Fulgham beat Alexis Fox. Alexis Fox beat himself, and Darius Fulgham just picked over his scraps. But credit to Fulgham, he took it. He did what he was supposed to do. Took advantage of a big opportunity. But Alexis Fox is back in better health. He's back he's back training hard. He's able to prepare at the level he needs to, and I'm excited to see what happens, what he can get at the end of the year.
Yeah, me too. And yeah, you're right. He lost that fight to himself, and certainly the Bazinian one that springs to mind. I really think he lost that fight himself rather than losing to Bazinian. It's great to see that he just flew back from sparring with David Morrell, who obviously he boxed under the bright lights. That's cool as well. I do want to get your take on a very exciting fight coming up in the welterweight division, Mike. Virgil Ortiz, Sergei Bohachuk. There's no way it goes the distance, I think.
Yeah. That's a good fight. And that's at super welterweight. That's at 154. But
oh, of course it is. Oh, silly me. I'm forgetting Virgil's moved up. Go on.
Yeah. I think it's been good. I actually spoke to Virgil a few months ago. I just reached out to him, man. I told you, man, I'm glad you're back in good health. I'm glad you decided to go up and weight just for your health. I would rather see you have a long career than have it shortened. Like not even lose your life in the ring. Just during the preparation. The preparation is oftentimes more grueling. I think Virgil wins it, man. Bohachuk is a great boxer, but I've seen him hurt before by Brandon Adams. I don't think Brandon Adams is the puncher that Virgil Ortiz is. Virgil Ortiz fights very well behind his high guard, works behind his jab, and I don't think he knows how to throw soft punches. So I have to pick Virgil by stoppage. I'm actually I was gutted when the Tim Tszyu Virgil Ortiz fight fell out, because I just knew that was going to be a show-stealing, fight of the year caliber, straight up, pretty much a mirror match in my opinion. Both fight behind the high guard, and they want to come forward. But there's another. But Virgil bounces back with another big opportunity against Sergey Bohachuk. I got him probably by TKO.
Yeah, certainly going to be exciting while it lasts, that's for sure. Do not blink. Just before we let you go, Mike, like I say, it's fantastic having you back on the podcast. It's been way too long. I can't believe we didn't have you on through the whole of 2023, but it's great that you're back on. If you just want to sign out with a little message to the listeners, take it away, my man. The floor is yours.
Man, I just want to say, man, thank you. Thank you to everybody that listens. Shout out to the BoxHard Podcast. We first conversed back in 2018, and a young 22-year-old me was bragging to everybody that I was internationally known because I just knew Joey. You know what I mean? But thank you to all the supporters of the BoxHard Podcast and myself. Y'all can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Professor Mike with a Y. I'm happy to be back, and I'm and I hope to have big news for y'all really soon.
We cannot wait. We cannot wait. And I remember that. It was right before the DeMarcus Corley fight.
Yes, sir.
There we go. And if my memory serves me right, we're really going off topic here, but am I right in saying that you went to one of his fights when you were a kid and he threw a pair of socks in the crowd and you caught him or something?
Yes, that is very true. That is very true. He always made his own outfits and everything, had his own clothing lines and clothing brands. So he was walking out. One of the people with him chucked some socks. They actually landed in a woman's lap. Like she threw her hands up like, ew, socks. Like they were used. They landed in her lap, and then she actually gave them to me, and I fought in them like a couple weeks later, and that was a big deal. I had them socks for I had those socks for a long time as a kid. Obviously, I lost them, but any chance I was fighting in white and red. They were white and red socks. I would try to throw those on.
That's so cool, man. And yeah, I can't believe that my memory actually works there, because usually it doesn't. Okay. Listen, Mike, as always, my friend, it's fantastic having you back on. Like I say, the pleasure's always mine. Congrats on another win on the weekend. Fantastic to see you back in the ring. Thanks for your time. We'll speak again soon, my brother.
Thanks a lot, Joey, man. Always good to hear from you. Always good to hear from you.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. Once again, it's usually the news part of the show. However, it's another slow news week in boxing. It seems like there's been no news for a month now, but yeah, I mean, I can't just make news on the spot. There's nothing really worth talking about in boxing at the moment, but if there is anything that develops from now to the end of the show, then I will talk about it on the outro. We're going to dive straight into the preview part then. We're going to start here on Saturday at the O2 Arena in Greenwich, London, United Kingdom. It's going to be live on ESPN, I think ESPN Plus, and also it's going to be live on TNT. It's a fantastic card. I have to say, it really is a fantastic card there. Cannot wait for some of the fights. We're going to see Adam Hamed back in the ring. That's the son of Prince Nassim Hamed. We're also going to see Frank Warren's newest signing, Brandon Lee, who I can't remember who he was with before. I don't know if it was Mayweather Promotions. I can't remember who he was with. It may have been PBC even. I can't remember what happened to him. But anyway, Brandon Lee's 28-0 with 23 KOs. He's having his first fight here under Frank Warren. I couldn't believe it when he signed him the other week, but he steps in with Juan Anaconda, who I've never heard of, but he's 11-0 and he's Colombian. He's got 6 KOs, so again, somebody's O must go, and you're going to hear that a few times on this card this week. Don't know nothing about the opponent, but happy to see Brandon Lee in the UK. The next fight, somebody's O must go again. Royston Barney Smith, 10-0, looking better and better every time under Ben Davison. He's back in an 8-rounder at super featherweight. He steps in with Brian Barajas, who is 7-0 with a draw. It's for the vacant WBO Youth Super Featherweight title. This guy, Brandon Barajas, is from Colombia as well, so it's another Colombian undefeated fighter on the card. 2 out of 2 here. Wonder if there's going to be some Colombians in the house, but yeah, he's beaten, I think, 4 undefeated fighters in his 7 or 8 fights, this Colombian here. So he steps in with Royston Barney Smith. What else do we have on the card? This is going to be a fun fight, I think. We're going to see Sean Noakes, 7-0 with 4 KOs. He steps in with Inder Bassi, who has a record these days of 12-1. Never been stopped. They're expecting Sean Noakes to win that one, I think, by decision on points. Also on the card, we're going to see Moses Italma, 9-0, stepping in with Marius Wack, 38-10. A huge step up. I know Marius Wack is obviously at the end of his career, but it does need to be mentioned that just last year, he went the distance with Fraser Clark, took him 10 rounds. Went the distance as well in 2022 with Kevin Lorena. Went the distance in 2020 with Hughie Fury. Went the distance in 2019 with Dillian White. Went the distance in 2012 to Vladimir Klitschko. That's going back some years though. But Yeah, doesn't often get stopped. I don't think he offers too much offensively, but he certainly knows how to survive. He's 44 years of age now. There's a crazy age difference here. We don't often say this, but Moses Itauma, he's less than half the age of Mariusz Wach. I think, what's Itauma? I think he's like 19 years old. Mariusz Wach is literally older than 2 Moses Itaumas. That's madness, right? Wow, that's a statistic right there. We talk about a guy giving away like 10 years in age. This is mad. It's literally 25 years. So it's going to be fun. I don't think we're going to see Itauma blow him out of there, but I tell you what, if he does blow him out of there, it'll be some statement, I think, because like I say, Mariusz Wach has been around the block, and I think he's proven in that fight with Fraser Clark that he certainly knows how to fiddle his way through a few rounds. He's coming off a win last time out as well against a low-level guy, but still, no one sort of steamrolls him. And for Moses Itauma, it's just a crazy step up from his previous opposition. It's for the WBO Intercontinental Heavyweight title there. Also on the card, another battle of the undefeated fighters. We're going to see Raven Chapman, 8-0, stepping in with Johanna Sarabia, who has a record of 10-0. She's also Colombian, so again, I'm sure there's going to be some Colombians in the house. That one over 10-2s for the WBC International Featherweight title. And then moving up to this one, it's for the WBC International Super Featherweight title in the men's category. Ryan Garner, he was on the show last week. He's 15-0. He steps in with Archie Sharp, long-time friend of the show, 25-0. These men have a combined record of 40-0. It's going to be such a good fight. I really have been looking forward to this fight since the moment it got made. Obviously, I'm honest. I've always been very honest on this podcast, and we got a good reputation for being, for not being biased. We're not biased on this podcast. We call it how we see it. However, this might be one of them times where I've got to kind of go into my bias just a little bit, and I think I'm allowed to for these ones here. Archie Sharp, of course, I'm rooting for Archie Sharp. He's more than just a boxer friend. That's a good friend of mine in life, Archie Sharp. So of course I'm rooting for him. I spoke to him on the phone today, as it goes, and yeah, he's fully up for this fight. He's known about the fight for a long time. However, he's under no illusion that he can't do what he did in his last fight. He got dropped twice in the first round by a man who no one can remember his name. And obviously it's a massive step up here to Ryan Garner. Ryan Garner, of course, on the other hand, looked fantastic last time against Liam Dillon, even though late on he started to get caught a few times. I think he got cut, and it wasn't the prettiest of cuts. He looked really good though, despite, a few sort of dodgy moments late on in the fight. I thought he looked really good. And he looks very filled out now, I think, Ryan Garner at the weight. He looks very strong, even though he's only, I think, 5'6". He's short, but he's very, very kind of filled out, looks very solid, strong, heavy-handed. And Archie Sharp's going to need to be on his A-game here, because for Archie Sharp, I think he's got a hell of a lot to lose. He's obviously got that high world ranking, and he's had it for a number of years now, and he's been mentioned in the same conversation as the likes of Shakur Stevenson, Jamel Herring, Oscar Valdez, Emmanuel Navarrete, Albert Bell, right up there with these good fighters because of that ranking. But this is a fight here with Ryan Garner down an undercard, and it's a fantastic card, like I say, at the O2 Arena. But you lose to Ryan Garner, then that's the end of what you've been building for years, and he won't be getting those fights with those fighters that I just mentioned there. So there's a hell of a lot riding on this for Archie Sharp. There's no shame in boxing a Shakur Stevenson getting a massive payday and then losing completely embarrassingly to him, which is the worst thing that could have happened to Archie Sharp, right? Let's be real. I'm not saying he couldn't pull off a shock win, but I'm saying the worst thing you can do is get completely humiliated. But if you're going to get completely humiliated in a fight, it's best to do it at world level where you've been paid nicely, because from world level, you can drop down a level, that's fine. But to lose here against Ryan Garner, who, isn't a world-known name, in America, no one knows who Ryan Garner is, no disrespect to him. He's a very honest kid. I think he'll admit that himself. And he was very honest in the interview. And all the build-up I've seen to this fight, he's under no illusion. He hasn't really boxed anyone of any kind of note. This is going to be the hardest fight of his career. He's said it time and time again. So he's an honest fighter. But losing to Ryan Garner for Archie Sharp would be pretty devastating. So I'm pulling for Archie. I think Archie's got all the tools. Obviously cannot lapse in concentration. I don't know if Roy Jones is going to be in the corner. I didn't ask Archie when I spoke to him today. I'd love him to be in the corner with him, but obviously Roy's son committed suicide just the other week, which was tragic news. So I know he hasn't been a part of camp, certainly not physically. So I don't know if he'll be there on fight night, but I hope he will be, just for that added little kick. But like I say, really good fight. Ryan Garner kind of came on and gave away his game plan. I think everyone knows what the game plan is here. Ryan Garner has got himself nice, fit and strong, and he will be hoping to capitalise in the later stages of the fight. Archie Sharp is going to be sharp, He's sharp by name, sharp by nature. He'll be coming out looking sharp from the first bell. And as the fight goes on, Ryan Garner's going to try and draw him into his kind of fight, and hopefully for him do something late on to turn the fight in his favour, whether that's completely take over the fight or get a stoppage late on. But yeah, Archie Sharp needs to come out and start fast, and I think we're going to see the best of Archie Sharp, just because whenever he's been in a fight where some people have doubted him, he's been able to pull out his finest performances. So I think we're going to see that. But like I say, he is the 2-1 underdog. I'm stunned. He's a 2-1 underdog. When they initially announced the odds, he wasn't as big as a 2-1 underdog, and I felt that those odds were way too wide, and I've seen him actually become an even bigger underdog now. So can't ignore them prices for the betting people. 2-1 is crazy. I think it's 3-1 by decision. I think that's well tempting as well. But yeah, listen, I've got nothing against Ryan Garner. Like I say, I would love to have him on the podcast again. If he wins, I'm sure we'll get him on again. Really good fighter, really nice man, and may the best man win here. But of course, I've got to root for my man Archie Sharp. And I think it's going to be a really, really good fight, that one, by the way. Great clash of styles. Moving up the card once again, we're going to finally see that rematch again that I didn't think we'd see. This reminds me a little bit of Heaney and Brad Pauls. I didn't think Heaney would want to give Pauls the rematch. And I didn't think, here we got Dennis McCann giving a rematch to iron up Bohachuk. Dennis McCann 15-0 with a draw. Bohachuk is 16-4 with a draw. Of course, they drew last time. This is over 12 rounds, and it's actually for the vacant EBU European Super Bantamweight title, so that's fantastic to see. The last fight obviously ended prematurely in round 9. It went to the scorecards, a technical decision, and two of the judges had it a draw, and one judge, Bob Williams, had it 1 point up, 86-85, so he had McCann ahead by 1. So yeah, last time it was just for a WBO Intercontinental title. It's great to now see it for the proper full European title. So a win here is really big for both men. Could you imagine if Bohachuk actually went on to pick up a European title, like the proper title? That'd be some heck of an achievement for him from where he comes from as well. Dennis McCann has been tipped for big things pretty much since his pro debut, and this is the moment here where he's going to kind of have to show it, I don't think in the first fight he was good enough around the mid-rounds. Bohachuk started to take over after McCann started really nice and sharp and really well, racked up a few early rounds. But like I say, Bohachuk really fought back, and it was just a great fight, and a shame that it ended with the cut. But I think the cut kind of did Dennis McCann a bit of a favour, because at that point he was starting to lose control. But yeah, Dennis McCann has had a fight in the interim period. He did step in with Brad Strand. He went 12 rounds with him back in March. That could prove to be a very, very key part of this fight here because Baluta hasn't fought in the interim, so he's coming off almost a year out the ring. Gonna be a great fight. All the best to both men there. And of course, the main event, I'm gonna come to you straight away here, Eddie. Joe Joyce stepping in the ring with Derek Chisora. Joyce 16-2. Derek these days 34-13. Joyce coming off a very under-impressive performance last time out, picking up a 10th round KO against Cash Ali. There was just seconds left in the fight, and he was absolutely dreadful that night. He looked super slow. He took some massive shots on the chin. He's still coming in absolutely huge. He looks big as well in the build-up to this. I do not know who's advising him to keep bulking up. And Derek Chisora, coming off that controversial win in August of last year against Gerald Washington, former opponent of yours, of course. And there was definitely a lot of people that felt Gerald won that fight. But yeah, anyway, doesn't really make much of a difference to this fight here. Some people are saying that this one, no way in the world goes the distance. I've seen people say it's going to end within 3 to 4 rounds. A little part of me, though, just thinks that we could see this fight go deep. And I don't know, I could be completely wrong, but I just think Joyce being so big and bulky and slow, and Derek Chisora, on the other hand, knowing that he's coming to the end of his career, he said this is going to be his last fight in London, his hometown. You know, he loves the O2 Arena. He's had some of his best performances at the O2, and he seems to be bang up for this fight. So I've got a feeling we're going to see a decent Del Boy here, actually. And yeah, for that reason there, with Joe Joyce's bulkiness that's made him even slower, I think Chisora's going to have some success in this fight. I can't believe I'm saying that. And I think we're going to see this go late.
Couldn't agree with you more, Joey. I'm going to be honest with you. Joe Joyce has been, marked as a puncher in the past. And, I mean, obviously, his record kind of reflected it for the most part. But I just think, depending on, obviously, who he gets in there with, we know how tough Derek Chisora is and how he fights. He comes forward. He throws, just a ton of punches. He's aggressive, It's now that obviously puts him in position to get hit too. But it's just, for the life of me, man, I've been watching Joe Joyce for years now, and he obviously has heavy hands, but he's just so slow, and him being extra heavy now has just magnified that, a few times. So it's just like, I can't see a guy getting hit by that and being surprised. You understand what I'm saying? Like, most of the shots that hit you, the ones that hurt you, the ones that knock you down, things like that, are shots you don't see coming. For the life of me, I just can't understand how a guy couldn't see it coming. Now, there's no disrespect to him because he still gets the job done most of the time. But his last performances haven't been indicative of what he's been in the past, the juggernaut. He hasn't really been indicative of that. So we don't really get the opportunity to say, well, he's been doing this and doing that, and whether it looks good or not, it hasn't looked good, and then he hasn't looked good on top of it. Obviously, he got his 2 stoppages to Big Bang Zhang and pause. And then this here fight with Cash Ali that obviously didn't look great either. And on top of all of this, like I said, and this is not the bash Joe Joyce segment of the show, but it's just highlighting what we've seen. You know what I mean? And now it's coming to a head, and now we get a chance to see, is this what he's going to be? Is he's gotten old right in front of our eyes in the last few fights, which he's already an older guy. He's 37, I think, or 38 now. So, I mean, yeah, he's up in age anyway. But is it starting to reflect that in his fights too? You know what I mean? As far as Derek, like you said, he got that gift against Gerald. I don't know. I just think anytime he gets in the ring, he's going to give his best effort. And no matter how good he's looked looked or what we've seen in the past. We've seen him in the past go downhill and not look great, and then all of a sudden come out and give a great performance. You know what I mean? So it's not impossible for him to come out and put forth a great performance. And I think his pace, and as long as he can take what he can see coming from Joe Joyce, and maybe even, dare I say, defend it pretty decent, and he's in his chest and he's working him over. I mean, I really do think this is, I don't want to say definitely because this is boxing, but I really think this is going rounds. If it goes to decision, I'd be a little surprised, but not entirely surprised, because Joe Joyce has been, like I said, labeled as a puncher, but Derek Chisora, kind of here and there, he's knocked guys out, he's done things, but for the most part, he's been like a wear you down kind of guy anyway. So I would think if it's going to go Derek's way, it's going to be late, mid to late rounds, where if he does get the stoppage, just be, I think, late in the fight. And if Joe Joyce was to actually get that to happen, I would think it would be a little more early to middle rounds. For it could be late too. I think this fight, like you said, Joe, I really think this fight has the makings of a distance fight. Not necessarily going the distance, like going all the way, but I think it will go rounds. I think it will go deep. And I think who's ever at this point is not as old and who's energized and who's excited, who's got momentum, which neither one of the guys have looked great recently. But I really think that'll be the one to win it. I mean, it's hard to go against Joyce and say, oh yeah, Derek Chisora, because Derek's up in age, he's had a lot of wars, so it's hard to go that route. Even though we've looked at Joe Joyce recently, he hasn't looked great. So, man, I really don't know. If gun was to my head and I had to make a decision, I would probably be on the fence. But no, I would say maybe Derek late. Derek maybe late, because he's going to give the best effort. If Joe Joyce didn't look so bad his last fight, or not necessarily so bad, but if he didn't do what he did in his last fight and he looked a bit better, I would definitely be on the Joe Joyce team here for this one. But just because of what I've seen recently from him and the weight and all of that, I feel like Derek Chisora is due for this one.
Wow, that's a big shout. I mean, I could just imagine if Derek did somehow pull it off, suddenly those last couple of fights he wants to have would turn into another 10. I just can't understand the thinking behind some people saying they think it's gonna end early. I'm just gonna run through Derek's losses, and we've got to go right back to his first loss to Tyson Fury back in 2011, unanimous decision loss over 12, lost to Robert Helenius over 12 on a split decision. That was the one where most people felt he won. Lost over 12 rounds to Vitaly Klitschko, was one of the only people that went the distance with Vitaly, I should say. Got stopped by David Haye in 5 rounds, obviously. That was 12 years ago now. That's the only time he ever got stopped early. After that, his next loss was on the the card that you boxed Dorian Darch on the undercard of, that Fury Chisora 2 card. He got stopped by Fury that night in the 10th. Then he lost a split decision to Pulev over 12 rounds. Then he lost a split decision to Dillian Whyte over 12. Then a majority to Caballel over 12. Then got stopped in 11 to Dillian Whyte. Went 12 with Usyk, went 12 with Parker, went 12 with Parker again, and then got stopped in 10 by Tyson Fury. So, yeah, he's only ever been stopped in the 5th round once, but other than that, it's been round, 10 or 11, So, yeah, I don't really see the thinking behind Joyce getting the stoppage early on in the fight. And obviously it has to be mentioned as well, like we touched on a few times. I don't want to keep going over the same points, but those times where he's yeah, he's looked not his old self, not the juggernaut as you put it, and I think that's the right thing to say. Really, he hasn't looked his old self. 2 back-to-back devastating stoppage defeats to Zhilei Zhang, and then that fight where he almost went the distance with Cash Ali. Even prior to the Zhang fights, he went 11 rounds with Joseph Parker. Look what Joseph Parker's gone on to achieve. I don't think going 11 rounds and stopping him in the 11th round was a bad thing. It was good, but just goes to kind of show the last time he got an early stoppage was a long time ago. He actually stopped Christian Hammer in the 4th round, but even prior to that, he went 6 rounds with Takam, went 10 with Daniel Dubois, went 12 with Bryant Jennings. It's a long time ago. So yeah, I'm really quite convinced now that we're going to see some rounds here. I do want to move on to the final card to mention. This one, before my battery dies, goes down on DAZN at the Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, Michigan. Again, it's going to be late Saturday night over here in the UK on DAZN. Like I say, on this card, we're going to see Vanessa Lepage Jonis, I think her name is, probably saying it wrong, never heard of her, but she's 7-1. It's over 10-2s at heavyweight, if I'm not mistaken. She's 7-1. She steps in with Clarissa Shields, 14-0. Clarissa, I would say, going for another weight class, I think. I don't know. The belt situation's a bit mad because I've never seen this one, Eddie, but we've actually got a fight here for the WBC heavyweight title and the WBO light heavyweight title, which is vacant. So I don't know what's going on there, but again, it's for light heavyweight and heavyweight world titles, so knock yourself out, women. But yeah, Clarissa Shields, obviously friend of the show, pulling for her. Also, another friend of the show on the card, Ernesto Mercado, 15-0, back in a 10-rounder here against Hector Sarmiento, who's 21-2. That's over 10 rounds there. Ernesto Mercado likes to get it done within the distance, of course. Also on the card, another man that likes to get it done within the distance, Shojahan Ergashev, 24-1. He boxed once upon a time against this week's guest, Mykal Fox. I felt Mykal Fox won the fight. They gave it to Ergashev. Ergashev, like I say, 24-1, stepping in with Julian Smith, 8-2. That's over 10 rounds. And then finally, Michel Rivera. That's the guy that looks like Muhammad Ali, if Muhammad Ali had some kind of illness where he looked really, 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 really slim and somehow had the same size head and haircut. Oh boy. Michel Rivera. Sorry.
If he could do that.
What you say?
I said that would be amazing if that was the case. That would be awesome.
Sorry, I should say he looks like his appearance, not quite like his fighting style, unfortunately. But Rivera, former, he failed a test in the past. 25-1. He's back in the ring with Hugo Roldan, who's 22-2 with a draw. That's over 10 rounds at super lightweight. So that's 4 fights there on that Dimitri Salita card on DAZN. I think that's quite a nice card, actually. I really think there's going to be a couple of fun fights on there. It's always good seeing Shojahan Ergashev. It's always good seeing Ernesto Mercado, and of course Clarissa Shields is always entertaining to watch if you like female boxing. So all the best to everyone there. That is the end of the preview part of the show. There was a lot of weird fights to go over there. In part 1 we did the review part, then we welcomed our special guest. In part 2 there was no news once again. I cannot believe it, no news. Then we did the preview part. The final thing for me to do now, before we wrap things up, is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this brings episode 458 to a close. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. The biggest thanks of all goes out to you, the listeners. Thanks once again for tuning in. I almost forgot to thank our special guest, that man being the welterweight contender himself, my favourite one in the world, Mr. Mykal Fox. Like I say, thanks for listening once again. That is about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we'll see you all again same time next week. Goodbye.